Hello, amazing entrepreneur. It's Tash Corbin here, and welcome to another episode of the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. This is episode number 367, which means you can find all the relevant links and show notes for today's episode over at tashcorbin.com/367. In today's episode, I'm going to give you 8 tips on how to write more effective sales pages. So if you use a sales page to sell your VIP services, your packages, your online courses, memberships, products, anything, particularly if it's digital products and service-based business stuff, courses, memberships, that kind of thing, then this is going to be really helpful for you. And I've got 8 really powerful tips. Let's dive on in. I'm Tash Corbin, and this is the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. Okay, so why do we want to make sure that our sales pages are written really effectively and we give them time and attention? Well, that's where the money comes from. That's where people are making buyer decisions. So most people don't need to be convinced that their sales pages need to be really schmick when it comes to ensuring you've done a great job of expressing the value of the thing you're getting them to buy, and that it's really clear and helps people to make an informed decision. So how do we ensure that our sales pages are actually doing the job that we need to do, which is making sales? Number 1 is to write the copy on your sales page for your warmest audience. Now, this might seem really odd for me to say, but the people who are most likely to be ready, willing, and able to buy from you are the people who already know you, like you, and trust you. They are not strangers who just stumbled across your sales page on the internet. They are not cold audience members who saw an ad for your product and then just went and bought it in most cases. The people most likely to buy are your warmest audience. And if you don't write the copy on your sales page to that warm audience, you may be turning them away and for the hope of selling to strangers who are far less likely to actually buy. So whenever we're thinking about writing a sales page, I encourage you to really consider, well, what is the messaging that needs to be there for my warmest audience? For people who understand the work that I do, that understand that this is something that they could be of use to them, and now they're discerning what product should I buy for this, right? This is an audience who knows what they need in order to achieve the goal, and they're now trying to discern, is this the right offer to meet that need? And so we want to be ensuring that we're speaking to our warmest audience as much as we can. Number 2 is to know who your niche is when you're writing that sales page as well. Another thing that can happen when we're writing sales pages is because we're open to anyone really buying from us, or like it's really broad who we would allow to buy our product from us, we then unniche the copy on the sales page because we disconnect from that active marketing space. So whilst a lot of people, once they understand the whole power of niche thing and how effective it helps to make your copy for social media and email marketing and all of those sorts of things, right? There are a lot of people who they get that, and so they're really clear on their niche, and their social posts and their email marketing is quite niche specific. But just in case random people from the internet stumble across this sales page, their sales page copy becomes unniched. And it stops being tangible to the people who are looking at it. It stops being deeply resonant and starts looking like it's a blanket solution to every problem you could possibly have, or for any kind of person who may have this area that they want to be working on. So as much as possible, you want to be focused specifically on your niche when you write the copy for a sales page, just as you are when you're writing the promo copy that goes out onto socials and emails. Number 3 is have your value proposition and core messaging in front of you when you write your sales page. If you don't have that in front of you, you will likely tend to write in more vague terms, or you will also maybe get fixated on one certain portion of your value proposition rather than being clear on the entire piece of it. So I remember, hand on heart, I make a lot of mistakes, right? I remember I had a launch of the Takeoff program one year, and the previous launch, I'd had a lot of questions from people about the live calls and the refunds and the group mentoring, like how is it mentoring, not a course, right? And so what I realized was that I still hadn't been as strong in explaining that the Takeoff program is a mentorship program. It's not a self-study course, and it's not delivered in the same way that most online courses are. There's a mentorship to it. And so in my next launch of the Takeoff program, having had that light bulb moment, I abandoned all other messaging and just focused on talking about the coaching and the mentorship. And what I did was I missed a whole lot of the other pieces of the value proposition, and I did see a drop in my engagement rate and my conversion rate during that launch. And it was only after the launch when I went and reviewed all my content, I went, oh, I did 4 Facebook Lives all about how the live calls work, and I didn't do a Facebook Live about why the process we follow in the Takeoff program is so powerful in getting sales faster and more profits in your business. They are 2 big value drivers for people who join the Takeoff program: quick profits and quick sales. So I had missed a bunch of my core messaging. So when you write sales pages, that's a particular time where we want to make sure we're quite balanced in the messaging that we put on that sales page, and we're really clear on the value proposition. Actually, I've got another example of that from a sales page. So I hired someone to review my sales page and provide copy edits and suggestions. And I did not give my value proposition information to that copywriter. It was just a one-off, like, I'll review your sales page and I'll look for places we can strengthen it. And my next launch, the sales page actually converted at a lower rate. And it took me like really analyzing the difference between my version and their version to see that sales page had now been written through the lens of like a very low ticket buyer, a very discerning buyer who was going to be wanting every single detail, every step of the way. The copy from the sales page had gone from talking about possibility and talking about connection and not doing business alone, and here's why Takeoff is so valuable in terms of return on investment. And so it was multi-pronged, and it was looking at it through different layers. In Sacred Money Archetypes, for example, I am a romantic connector nurturer. So my version was very romantic connector nurturer driven, and the one with the copy edits was more in the accumulator ruler space, people who wanted to work hard, people who had already been working really hard, people who needed to know exactly where they were going to get every cent back from doing the program. And actually for me, I found that I get far more conversion and far more aligned members of my program when I use my version of the messaging, right? When I speak in my language. And I'm not saying I don't work with accumulator rules. I absolutely do. And I have quite a lot of them who join my program, but they're not joining it thinking I'm the same as them. They're not joining it thinking, I have mapped out the 21 ways that they're going to get return on investment for doing the Takeoff program, because I don't want people who join the program and then have a list and then they're like, I only got 17 of the 21 ways I get return on investment, so you didn't deliver, right? Which can be something that happens when I have very accumulator, ruler heavy copy in my sales pages and my promos. So make sure that you've got that value proposition in front of you to remind you of what those key pieces of value are, but also to keep that balanced approach in what you want to prioritize for your audience. Number 4 is that on your sales page, we want to have a balance of logical reasons and emotional reasons to enroll. So it's not about having it all logic, but it's also not about having it all emotion. The old school sales page stuff that I saw from, when I started my business in 2013, it used to talk about a lot how you want people to buy through the lens of emotion and just make sure they can justify it with their logic, right? And so all the sales pages and webinars and copy and all those sorts of things had a high priority on getting people emotionally invested, speaking to the emotion of the success, speaking about how it would feel to have this all figured out, but did not have a high priority on the logical reasons behind making the investment decision. These days, that approach to copywriting and sales pages in particular isn't as effective because people are wise to it, and also people know how to be far more discerning about what will deliver on that promise for them and whether they are actually going to be able to experience that emotion or not. So we don't just focus on purely emotion or purely logic. We want to have a good balance of the two. Number 5 is to write conversationally. So remembering that, the more something sounds and looks like an ad and I feel like I'm being sold to, the less likely I am to buy it, right? We live in a time of human-to-human connection, of very social selling, and so therefore we want to make sure that the sales page reflects that type of language and talking to people conversationally. However, I will preface this with saying that it's not all sassy, snappy remarks though. There are some sales pages that I've been reading recently that try to be so conversational, oh yeah, I feel your sister, that it almost starts to feel like it's condescending or you're not taking the problem you're solving seriously. So you do want, whilst I say you want it to be conversational, you don't want it to be too sassy or too, we're just on the same page and we're all friends here, right? You are still selling something. They are still making a buying decision. So it's conversational, but it's not underestimating the decision-making process that's going on and being too let's just all hang out together because this sucks. Or, sometimes I see every sentence ends with a snappy bracketed comment, or every section has a smart alecky type thing in it. And it just, the more that there are on that sales page, the more I feel like you're not taking this seriously, or I feel like you're not going to take my investment seriously, more specifically. All right, number 6, longer isn't always better. So when it comes to writing sales pages, my rule of thumb is the cheaper the ask, right? The lower the ticket the ask, the shorter the sales page. I once saw someone promoting something, it was $19, and I clicked over, I was like, oh, that's a no-brainer, I definitely want to buy that. And I had to scroll so far through this sales page to get to the buying part. And I was just like, the more I read, the more I feel like you're really trying to convince me of this. And then I think, God, why do you feel like you have to do so much convincing? It's $19, right? What am I missing here? And then I start looking for more, okay, this feels like overkill, right? This feels like over explaining it. Why are you spending so long trying to convince me that this is a valuable use of my $19, right? So the cheaper it is, the lower ticket, the less the ask financially, the shorter the sales page. And then in terms of longer form sales pages, it's not necessarily just that high ticket equals longer sales page. I also feel that with anything where there's more connection with you, you are the mentor in the program, or they get calls with you, or they get hot seat with you, or they get one-to-one with you as part of the package, or whatever it might be, the more people want to ensure that you're on the same page. And so therefore, it may take a little bit of a longer form page, sales page, to create that shared connection and understanding. Remembering that we're writing this for your warmest audience, so it definitely longer is never better. It's not always longer is better, but sometimes you do need a little more length to those sales pages to cover the depth that you need to cover. But don't just include information for information's sake and think that the longer the sales page is, the more convincing space you have, because actually you start to talk people out of it after a while. Number 7 is that you want a sales page to be visually dynamic, but it also needs to be easy to read. So you want it to look as modern as possible, especially when you're selling online. So, old school 90s sales pages, whilst they're fun and nostalgic for us to look at, they do give subconscious messaging that you're not up with the times. They do give subconscious messaging that this is a bit of a homemade job. They do give subconscious messaging that this is not up to date. And so we don't want to be doing that with sales pages in particular. So using those nice modern templates, go and have a look at some of the sales pages from people that you follow or people that you admire, and just look for like what looks the most fresh and modern to you. What looks like the most easy to read, but still it's got some dynamism to it. So it's definitely a balancing act. We don't want it to be completely plain and boring just to make it easy to read, but we also don't want to sacrifice the visually appealing stuff. So you want it to be visually dynamic but easy to read. You want people's eyes, you don't want it all to be left aligned and people's eyes just doing this. You want some content to be centered. You want some content off to the left. You want some off to the right. You want images of you. If this has got a tangible product attached to it, you want images of the product. If this has a digital download, you want a mock-up of that digital download, right? So there's some visual appeal. You've got some colorful, you've got some, or, if it's visually appealing because it's all black and white because that's the mood, right? So just understanding visual dynamism as well as making sure that it's easy to read. And please also just read through it on mobile. Most people who come to sales pages these days are doing that on mobile, and it blows me away how many people still don't have mobile optimized sales pages on their website. So make the most of that, and ensure that you've checked it on both. My partner and I have different screen sizes of our phone, so I'll often check things on his as well as mine, just to make sure it's not just a size specific thing. And then the final tip that I have to writing effective sales pages is to test and refine those sales pages. There will be no perfect sales page written in a vacuum if you don't ever share it with your audience. Certain things work for certain audiences, certain things don't. And so you won't know what's going to work for your specific audience with your specific voice and your specific target market until you get out there and test it and see where people get stuck, what questions come in, what conversion rates you're getting. So something that I love to look at is the heat map on my sales pages. So if you don't have that, get your VA or hire a tech person if you can't do it yourself, to be able to go and see, like, what it tells me is where do people mostly get to before they either click away or before they click buy now. Which buy now button gets the most action. It really shows where people stop and read the most detail as well. Which detailed content do people skip over, and it's actually people aren't reading it, needs to be refined. So be sure to track the effectiveness of your sales pages. Look at those heat maps if you can get them as well. Pay attention to questions that are submitted from people who've already been to the sales page to see if maybe there's something that you're missing. Refine as consistently as you can. I generally, as a rule of thumb, recommend that every time you launch, you have a little review of your sales page, or if you don't do live launches, you sell on Evergreen, then every 90 days, once a quarter, be doing that review of your sales page and looking for those opportunities to improve. Remembering that at some point, you're going to cap out on your conversion rate for the sales page anyway. Like it's silly to aim for 100% conversion rate on a sales page. You're better off to know, okay, well, the first launch, it got 15% conversion. I'm going to just see if I can get it to 20. And if you get it to 20, you know how many people you need to get there. The little review, but we're not putting pressure on it to do any more than that, right? So the best person to compete against is yourself. And there comes a point where that level of conversion rate is very healthy. It's definitely doing its job. You can focus on just getting more people seeing it, and you know that you're going to get more sales. So they are my top 8 strategies for ensuring that you write effective sales pages. I would love to help you get that nailed. And one of the things I talked about was having your value proposition in front of you when you write your sales page. We'll actually have a template and a training that will walk you through how to do that. It's my core messaging freebie. So if you'd like to go and grab that, make sure you go to the show notes of today's episode at tashcorbin.com/367. 7, and I'll have a link for you to go and grab my core message freebie and training over there. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Heart Centered Business Podcast, and until next time, I cannot wait to see you shine. Bye for now. Would you like more tips, tools, and resources to help you grow your heart-centered business? Head to tashcorbin.com today.